Welcome to Deep Science Sleep. Picture yourself sinking into your bed at the end of a long day. The room is cool and dark, wrapped in that particular kind of silence that only arrives when the world outside begins to settle. Your body seems to know, even before your mind fully accepts it, that the time has come to let go. The weight of the day starts to lift from your shoulders. Your breathing, without you even noticing, begins to slow and deepen, each exhale carrying with it a little more of the tension you've been holding. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the thoughts that were racing through your mind just moments ago start to blur at the edges, becoming softer, less insistent, like voices fading into the distance. This transition, this gentle surrender into sleep, feels effortless. But beneath the surface of your awareness, beneath the quiet calm that's settling over your conscious mind, something remarkable is beginning to happen. Your body isn't shutting down at all. In fact, entire systems that have been waiting patiently in the background all day long are now preparing to step forward and begin their essential work. While you drift away from wakefulness, your brain is orchestrating one of the most complex and vital performances in all of biology. Tonight, as every night, your body will engage in a series of extraordinary processes that will clean your brain, strengthen your immune system, regulate hormones, consolidate memories, repair damaged cells, and maintain the delicate balance that keeps you alive. The secret systems that sustain you while you sleep are about to begin their work. The brain's nightly orchestra. The transition from wakefulness to sleep is not a simple switch being flipped, but rather a gradual transformation of electrical patterns cascading across billions of neurons. As you lie there in the darkness, your brain's activity begins to shift in profound ways that scientists can measure and observe, yet still struggle to fully understand. The brain you use to read these words, to think and plan and worry during the day, is about to become something quite different. During wakefulness, when you're alert and engaged with the world around you, your brain produces what neurologists call beta waves. These are fast, somewhat irregular electrical oscillations, ranging from about 13 to 30 cycles per second. They represent the busy chatter of a brain processing information from multiple sources simultaneously. You're reading a message on your phone while listening to music, while also being vaguely aware of the temperature in the room and the feeling of your chair beneath you. Your neurons are firing in complex, desynchronized patterns, each processing its own stream of information. This is the signature of active consciousness, the electrical fingerprint of a mind that is awake and paying attention. But as you prepare for sleep, as the lights go out and you close your eyes, something begins to change. Even before you actually fall asleep, your brain starts producing alpha waves, which are slower, ranging from 8 to 12 cycles per second. These appear when you're relaxed but still awake, eyes closed, mind drifting. You might notice this yourself in those moments when you're lying in bed, not quite asleep but no longer fully alert, when thoughts become dreamlike and the boundary between imagining something and actually thinking about it starts to blur. Then comes the true beginning of sleep, what scientists call stage 1 or N1 sleep. This is that curious twilight state that rarely lasts more than a few minutes, when you're hovering right on the threshold between waking and sleeping. Your brain waves slow down even further, producing what are called theta waves, oscillating at 4 to 7 cycles per second. You might experience strange sensations during this phase. Perhaps you've felt that sudden jerk, that falling sensation that snaps you back to awareness. This is called a hypnic jerk, And it occurs because your muscles, which have been tense all day long, are finally beginning to relax. Sometimes this relaxation is so sudden that your brain, still partially online, misinterprets it as falling and responds by tensing your muscles again to catch yourself. During this first stage of sleep, you're still somewhat aware of your environment. A door closing downstairs might bring you back to full wakefulness. Your eyes might move slowly beneath your closed lids. Your heartbeat begins to slow, your breathing becomes more regular, and the tight grip of conscious control starts to loosen. If someone were to ask you whether you were asleep, you might not be entirely sure how to answer. But sleep doesn't stop there. Within minutes, if you're not disturbed, you drift deeper into stage 2 sleep, or N2. This is where you truly lose conscious awareness of your surroundings. About half of your total sleep time each night will be spent in this stage, making it the most common sleep state you experience. Your brain waves continue to slow, now dominated by theta activity, but with distinctive new patterns emerging. Scientists watching an electroencephalogram during this stage can identify what they call sleep spindles and K-complexes, brief bursts of rapid brain activity that stand out against the slower background rhythm. Sleep spindles are fascinating phenomena. They appear as sudden bursts of brain activity lasting just a second or two, during which your neurons fire rapidly in synchronized patterns. Research suggests these spindles play a crucial role in memory consolidation, helping to transfer information from short-term to long-term storage. They seem to represent moments when your brain is actively processing the events of the day, deciding what to keep and what to discard. A difficult conversation you had, a new skill you practiced, the route you took to a new restaurant. All of these experiences are being reviewed and filed away during these brief spindles of activity. K-complexes are even stranger. These are single, large waves of brain activity that appear suddenly and then vanish. They're the largest and most distinctive brain waves that occur naturally during sleep, and researchers believe they serve multiple purposes. They might help keep you asleep by suppressing your response to external stimuli. That car alarm outside or the sound of a dog barking doesn't wake you up because a K-complex helps your brain ignore it. They might also be involved in memory consolidation, working alongside sleep spindles to process and store information. During this stage 2 sleep, your body temperature begins to drop measurably. Your heart rate slows down even further. Your muscles relax more completely. You're no longer aware of the passage of time or the presence of your own body. If someone were to wake you now, you would definitely know you had been asleep, though you probably wouldn't remember dreaming. Then, if everything proceeds normally, you sink even deeper into stage 3 sleep, which scientists now call N3 or slow wave sleep. This is the deepest form of non-rapid eye movement sleep, and it's during this phase that the most restorative processes occur. Your brain waves become dominated by delta waves, huge, slow oscillations occurring at just 1 to 4 cycles per second. These waves are so large and so slow that they represent something extraordinary. Vast populations of neurons, millions and millions of them, all firing together in synchrony. During your waking hours, your neurons fire somewhat independently, each following its own rhythm based on the information it's processing. But in deep sleep, they begin to coordinate, to fire together in these massive rolling waves of electrical activity. It's as if the individual musicians in an orchestra, who have been playing their own parts all day, suddenly begin playing the same note together, creating a deep, resonant tone that fills the entire concert hall. This synchronization is the signature of truly deep sleep. Getting into slow-wave sleep is not easy when you're tired, because your brain actively resists being disturbed. The threshold for waking you up is much higher now. Loud noises that would have snapped you awake during stage 1 or stage 2 might not even register. Your body is profoundly relaxed, your muscles loose and unresponsive. If someone were to wake you during this phase, you would feel disoriented and confused, struggling to understand where you are or what's happening. This is the sleep state that, when you get enough of it, makes you feel genuinely rested in the morning. Young children spend much more time in slow-wave sleep than adults do, which makes sense given how much growth and development their bodies are undergoing. As we age, we tend to get less and less slow-wave sleep, which may explain why older people often report feeling less rested even when they sleep for a reasonable number of hours. The quality of sleep changes over our lifespan, with this deep, restorative stage gradually becoming more elusive. But the brain's nighttime journey doesn't end with slow-wave sleep. After cycling through these stages of deepening slumber, something remarkable happens. About 90 minutes after you first fall asleep, your brain activity begins to change dramatically. You enter what's called REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement sleep, named for the quick, jerky movements your eyes make beneath your closed eyelids during this phase. REM sleep is paradoxical. Your brain waves, which had slowed to those enormous delta oscillations during deep sleep, suddenly speed up again, becoming fast and irregular, looking remarkably similar to the patterns seen during wakefulness. If someone were monitoring your brain activity without knowing whether you were awake or asleep, they might struggle to tell the difference. Your brain is active, processing, working through complex scenarios. This is when the most vivid dreams occur, those elaborate, often bizarre narratives that can feel absolutely real while they're happening. Yet, despite this mental activity, your body is effectively paralyzed. The brainstem sends signals that relax the muscles essential for body posture and limb movement so completely that you can't move, even if you want to. This temporary paralysis serves a crucial protective function. It prevents you from acting out your dreams. You might be dreaming that you're running through a forest or fighting a dragon or flying through the sky, but your body remains still and safe in bed. On rare occasions, this protective mechanism fails, leading to a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder, where people do act out their dreams, sometimes causing injury to themselves or their sleeping partners. The first REM period of the night usually lasts only about 10 minutes. But as the night progresses, REM periods become longer and occur more frequently. By morning, you might be spending 20 or 30 minutes in REM sleep during each cycle. This is why, if you're woken suddenly by an alarm clock, there's a good chance you were in the middle of a dream. Throughout the night, you cycle through these stages repeatedly, moving from light sleep to deep sleep to REM sleep and back again, roughly every 90 to 110 minutes. A typical night might include 4 to 6 of these complete cycles. The proportion of time spent in each stage shifts as the night progresses. Early in the night, you spend more time in deep, slow-wave sleep. Later in the night, REM sleep dominates. This pattern seems to reflect different needs. Early sleep is more about physical restoration, while later sleep is more about mental and emotional processing. What makes all of this even more remarkable is that your brain doesn't simply turn off its monitoring systems during sleep. Even in the deepest phases of slumber, your brain maintains what neuroscientists call a vigilance system. This is why a parent can sleep through traffic noise and thunderstorms but wake instantly to their baby's cry. Your brain continues to process sounds and other sensory information, evaluating whether they represent potential danger or require your attention. Familiar, non-threatening sounds are filtered out, while novel or important sounds can trigger awakening. This complex choreography of brain states serves purposes we're only beginning to understand. Each stage appears to have specific functions, specific types of maintenance work that can only be accomplished in that particular brain state. The slow waves of deep sleep seem particularly important for memory consolidation, for clearing metabolic waste from the brain, and for restoring the energy reserves that neurons depleted during the day. REM sleep appears crucial for emotional processing, for integrating new experiences with old memories, for creative problem solving. Research has shown that people who are deprived of specific sleep stages suffer specific deficits. Take away someone's deep sleep, and their ability to form new declarative memories, facts, events, conscious recollections, declines significantly. Take away their REM sleep, and they struggle more with emotional regulation, with learning new procedural skills, with creative thinking. Each stage matters. Each has its role to play in maintaining the extraordinary machine that is your brain. The electrical patterns of sleep reflect something profound about the nature of consciousness itself. During waking hours, your brain maintains this high-energy, desynchronized state because it needs to process multiple streams of information simultaneously. You need to be able to think about what you're doing while also listening to what someone is saying, while also monitoring your surroundings for potential threats, while also remembering where you parked your car. This requires neurons to fire independently, to maintain their own rhythms, to process their own piece of the puzzle. But this comes at a cost. Running in this high-performance mode all day long depletes resources, accumulates metabolic waste, and generates wear and tear on neural circuits. Sleep, especially deep sleep with its slow, synchronized waves, appears to be the brain's way of shifting into a lower gear, into a mode where restoration and maintenance can occur. The neurons, instead of firing independently, begin to fire together, creating these massive coordinated waves that seem to promote the clearing of cellular debris and the consolidation of memories. The fact that this happens every night without our awareness or conscious effort is a testament to how fundamental sleep is to brain function. We don't choose to produce delta waves when we're tired. We don't consciously decide to enter REM sleep. These processes emerge from the complex interplay of neurotransmitters, hormones, and neural circuits that operate beneath the level of our awareness. The brain takes care of itself, cycling through these different states, performing the maintenance work that keeps it functioning optimally, while our conscious mind drifts through dreams or simply disappears into darkness. As you lie there tonight, unaware and unseeing, your brain will move through this ancient pattern, this nightly symphony of electrical oscillations that has been playing out in the skulls of sleeping mammals for millions of years. The fast, chaotic patterns of wakefulness will give way to the slow, majestic rhythms of deep sleep, then shift again to the active patterns of REM, then cycle back through the sequence over and over until morning light triggers the systems that bring consciousness back online. And when you wake, feeling rested or not depending on how much time you spent in each stage, the orchestra will fall silent again, the delta waves will vanish, and the fast, desynchronized rhythms of waking consciousness will resume their performance. The glymphatic system, your brain's custodial service. There's a remarkable cleaning system operating in your brain right now, a system that was only discovered in 2012 despite centuries of neuroscience research. It's called the glymphatic system, and it represents one of the most important discoveries in sleep science in recent decades. Understanding how this system works and why it operates primarily during sleep reveals something profound about why we need to spend a third of our lives unconscious. Your brain is the most metabolically active organ in your body. Though it represents only about 2% of your body weight, it consumes approximately 20% of your total energy supply. This extraordinary energy consumption is necessary to power the constant electrical signaling between neurons, to maintain ion gradients across cell membranes, to synthesize neurotransmitters, and to perform all the countless other operations that make thought and consciousness possible. But all this activity comes with a cost. It generates waste. During the day, as your neurons fire and communicate, they produce metabolic byproducts. These include various proteins, cellular debris, and potentially toxic substances that accumulate in the spaces between your brain cells. One of the most concerning of these waste products is a protein called amyloid beta. Under normal circumstances, small amounts of amyloid beta are produced and cleared away without causing problems. But if it accumulates and isn't cleared efficiently, it can clump together into plaques that damage neurons. These amyloid plaques are one of the hallmark features of Alzheimer's disease. Another problematic protein, tau, can also accumulate and form tangles inside neurons, contributing to neurodegeneration. Every other organ system in your body has a lymphatic system to handle this kind of waste removal. The lymphatic system is a network of vessels that collects cellular waste, excess fluid, and other debris from tissues and transports it to the bloodstream for eventual elimination. But the brain, protected behind the blood-brain barrier and packed tightly into the confines of the skull, doesn't have traditional lymphatic vessels. For a long time, scientists wondered how the brain managed to clear its waste products. The answer, it turns out, involves an ingenious alternative system that comes alive primarily while you sleep. The glymphatic system gets its name from two key components: the glial cells that help make it work, and its functional similarity to the lymphatic system. Glial cells, particularly astrocytes, are brain cells that provide support and maintenance for neurons. They've long been known to play crucial roles in brain function, but only recently have we understood their involvement in waste clearance. Here's how the system works. Your brain and spinal cord are surrounded by cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. This clear, colorless fluid circulates around the outside of the brain and through internal cavities called ventricles. It provides cushioning, helps regulate the chemical environment around neurons, and plays a role in removing waste products. What researchers discovered is that CSF doesn't just surround the brain. It also flows through it, following specific pathways that allow it to sweep through brain tissue like a cleaning fluid. These pathways are formed by the unique architecture of brain blood vessels. Arteries diving into the brain tissue are surrounded by perivascular spaces, channels that run alongside the blood vessels. CSF flows into the brain along these perivascular spaces, driven by the pulsing of the arteries with each heartbeat. As the CSF moves through these channels, it encounters astrocytes, the star-shaped support cells that have extensions called end feet that wrap around the blood vessels. These astrocyte end feet are studded with proteins called aquaporin 4 channels, or AQP4 for short. These channels act as water gates, allowing fluid to flow from the perivascular spaces into the brain tissue itself. This is where the real cleaning happens. As CSF flows into the brain tissue through these AQP4 channels, it mixes with interstitial fluid, the fluid that exists in the tiny spaces between brain cells. This mixing creates a bulk flow that sweeps through the tissue, collecting metabolic waste products, including those troublesome amyloid beta and tau proteins. The fluid, now carrying cellular debris and waste products, then flows out of the brain along different perivascular spaces that surround veins. These waste-laden fluids eventually drain out of the brain entirely, entering the lymphatic vessels in the neck and ultimately being carried to the bloodstream for filtration and elimination by the liver and kidneys. It's an elegant loop. Fresh CSF flows in along arteries, sweeps through brain tissue collecting waste, and then flows out along veins carrying that waste away. What makes this process especially relevant to sleep is that it dramatically increases in efficiency when you're unconscious. During wakefulness, the glymphatic system operates at a very low level, clearing only a small amount of waste. But during sleep, particularly during deep, slow-wave sleep, the system's activity increases by as much as 10 to 20 times. This remarkable enhancement happens for several reasons. First, the spaces between your brain cells actually expand during sleep. Studies using advanced imaging techniques have shown that the extracellular space, the gaps between neurons and other brain cells, increases by about 60% when you're asleep compared to when you're awake. This expansion makes it much easier for CSF to flow through the tissue, like opening the gates wider to allow more water to flow through a canal. The mechanism behind this expansion involves changes in the volume of brain cells themselves, though the exact details are still being researched. Second, sleep changes the activity of the norepinephrine system in your brain. Norepinephrine, also called noradrenaline, is a neurotransmitter and hormone that promotes alertness and arousal. During waking hours, neurons in a brain region called the locus coeruleus constantly release norepinephrine, keeping you alert and focused. But during sleep, especially during non-REM sleep, these neurons quiet down dramatically and norepinephrine levels drop. This decline in norepinephrine turns out to be crucial for glymphatic function. Researchers have discovered that norepinephrine causes the extracellular spaces to contract, restricting the flow of CSF through brain tissue. When norepinephrine levels drop during sleep, this constriction is released, the spaces expand, and the glymphatic system can operate at full capacity. It's as if norepinephrine acts as a brake on the cleaning system during waking hours, and releasing that brake at night allows the system to perform its essential maintenance. The pulsation of blood vessels also plays a key role in driving glymphatic flow. Every time your heart beats, it sends a wave of pressure through your arteries. During sleep, these arterial pulsations create rhythmic waves of CSF flow that help push cerebrospinal fluid through the perivascular spaces and into the brain tissue. Scientists have observed that these pulsations become more regular and effective during sleep, particularly during non-REM sleep with its slow, synchronized brain waves. Recent research has revealed an even more fascinating connection between brain activity patterns and glymphatic function. Those slow delta waves that characterize deep sleep don't just represent synchronized neural firing. They also seem to actively promote glymphatic clearance. The slow, rhythmic waves of electrical activity are accompanied by slow, rhythmic waves of blood volume in the brain. As neurons fire together, they consume oxygen, which causes blood vessels to dilate slightly to bring more oxygen-rich blood. Then, as the neurons rest before the next wave, blood vessels constrict again. This creates a pumping action that helps drive CSF through the brain tissue. Think of it as a kind of tide going in and out. During each slow wave, blood volume increases slightly, which pushes CSF into the brain tissue. Then blood volume decreases, creating space for CSF to flow. This rhythmic pumping action, happening several times per minute during deep sleep, provides mechanical energy that enhances the movement of CSF through the glymphatic pathways. It's a beautiful example of how different aspects of sleep physiology work together. The electrical activity of neurons, the flow of blood through vessels, and the movement of cerebrospinal fluid through tissue all coordinate to accomplish the critical task of cleaning the brain. The implications of this system for health are profound. Research has shown that problems with glymphatic function are associated with various neurodegenerative diseases. In Alzheimer's disease, for instance, there's evidence that glymphatic clearance of amyloid beta is impaired, allowing the protein to accumulate and form plaques. Some studies have found that people who sleep poorly or get insufficient sleep show higher levels of amyloid beta in their brains, suggesting that inadequate glymphatic clearance over time might contribute to the development of dementia. Similar patterns have been observed with other conditions. After traumatic brain injury, glymphatic function is disrupted, potentially interfering with the removal of cellular debris and contributing to long-term cognitive problems. In stroke, reduced blood flow can impair the glymphatic system's ability to clear waste from damaged tissue. Even in normal aging, there's evidence that glymphatic function declines, which might explain why sleep tends to become less restorative as we get older. The discovery of the glymphatic system has also shed new light on the mystery of why all animals sleep. For decades, scientists have puzzled over why evolution would preserve such a vulnerable state as sleep across virtually all species with nervous systems. If sleep were not absolutely essential, natural selection should have eliminated it long ago, because being unconscious for hours at a time leaves you vulnerable to predators, unable to find food, and generally at a disadvantage. The fact that sleep persists despite these costs suggests it serves functions that cannot be accomplished any other way. The glymphatic system provides at least part of the answer. Your brain apparently cannot clean itself effectively while you're awake and active. The high levels of norepinephrine, the contracted extracellular spaces, the active processing of sensory information, all of these aspects of wakefulness seem to be incompatible with efficient waste clearance. To clean itself, the brain must enter the specific state we call sleep, with its reduced norepinephrine, expanded extracellular spaces, and synchronized slow-wave activity. It's not just that sleep provides an opportunity for cleaning. The cleaning apparently requires sleep. This might also explain why we can't simply reduce the amount we sleep without consequences. Chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to increased risk of dementia, cognitive decline, and various neurological problems. If glymphatic clearance is reduced when you don't sleep enough, waste products would accumulate in your brain tissue over time, potentially leading to cellular damage and dysfunction. Even a single night of poor sleep can result in measurable increases in amyloid beta and tau levels in cerebrospinal fluid, suggesting that the brain's cleaning system fell behind in its work. Interestingly, certain lifestyle factors appear to influence glymphatic function. Exercise, for instance, has been shown to enhance glymphatic clearance, possibly by improving cardiovascular health and increasing the pulsatility of blood vessels. Sleep position may also matter. Some research suggests that sleeping on your side might promote better lymphatic drainage than sleeping on your back or stomach, though more research is needed to confirm this. Even the timing of sleep relative to your circadian rhythm seems to affect lymphatic efficiency, with sleep occurring at your body's natural low point in circadian alertness being more restorative. The lymphatic system represents a fundamental revision in our understanding of what sleep is for. It's not just rest. It's not just a time when your brain can consolidate memories or when your muscles can recover. It's also, crucially, the time when your brain can clean itself, when the metabolic waste products of conscious thought can be swept away and eliminated from your nervous system. Every night, as you drift into unconsciousness, as your brain waves slow into those massive, synchronized delta rhythms, as your body relaxes and your awareness of the world fades, this extraordinary cleaning system activates, working through the dark hours to maintain the remarkable organ that makes you who you are. When morning comes and you wake, your brain will be cleaner. The accumulated debris of yesterday's mental activity cleared away, the toxic proteins that could damage neurons removed, the tissue refreshed and ready for another day of conscious experience. All of this happens without your knowledge or effort, another gift from the ancient biological systems that keep you alive while you sleep. The autonomic symphony. While your conscious mind drifts through dreams or simply vanishes into the void of deep sleep, another part of your nervous system continues its work without pause or fanfare. This is the autonomic nervous system, the collection of nerve circuits that controls all the automatic functions of your body: heart rate, breathing, digestion, blood pressure, and countless other processes that continue whether you're awake or asleep. During the night, this system undergoes subtle but important changes that reveal something profound about what sleep means for your physical health. The autonomic nervous system has two main branches that work in opposition to each other, like the gas pedal and brake of a car. The sympathetic nervous system is your accelerator, activated during stress, excitement, or danger. It's what produces the fight-or-flight response, increasing your heart rate, raising your blood pressure, diverting blood flow to muscles, and generally preparing your body for action. The parasympathetic nervous system is your brake, activated during rest and relaxation. It slows your heart rate, lowers blood pressure, promotes digestion, and generally helps your body recover and conserve energy. During waking hours, even when you're relaxed and calm, there's a baseline level of sympathetic activity keeping you ready to respond to the demands of the day. Your heart beats at a moderate pace. Your blood pressure stays elevated enough to ensure good circulation to all your tissues. Your muscles maintain enough tone to hold you upright and allow quick movements. This is the normal state of daytime functioning, a balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic influence that keeps you alert and responsive. But as you fall asleep, this balance begins to shift dramatically. The sympathetic nervous system's influence starts to wane, while the parasympathetic system becomes increasingly dominant. This shift is gradual at first, beginning during the light stages of sleep, but it becomes quite pronounced during deep, slow-wave sleep. The result is a cascade of changes throughout your body that promote rest and restoration. Your heart rate, which might average 70 to 80 beats per minute during waking hours, begins to slow as you drift into sleep. During deep sleep, it may drop to 50 or 60 beats per minute or even lower in some people. This slowing is a direct result of increased parasympathetic activity, specifically through the vagus nerve, the major parasympathetic pathway that connects your brain to your heart. The vagus nerve releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine onto the heart's pacemaker cells, causing them to fire more slowly and reducing the force of each heartbeat. This cardiac slowing serves multiple purposes. It reduces the workload on your heart muscle, giving it time to rest and recover from the day's exertions. It also reduces your overall oxygen consumption, since a slower heart rate means less energy expended on pumping blood. For people with heart disease, this nightly period of reduced cardiac work may be particularly important for preventing further damage and allowing the heart to heal. Your blood pressure follows a similar pattern, declining as sleep deepens. During waking hours, your blood pressure rises and falls in response to various demands and stressors, but it generally maintains a higher baseline to ensure adequate perfusion of all your organs. During sleep, especially deep sleep, blood pressure can drop by 10 to 20% or more. This nocturnal dip in blood pressure is so consistent and so important that doctors have a name for its absence: non-dipping. People who don't show this normal blood pressure decline during sleep are at increased risk for cardiovascular problems, suggesting that the nightly reduction is an important protective mechanism. The mechanism behind this blood pressure drop involves both reduced sympathetic outflow and increased parasympathetic activity. The blood vessels in your skin and extremities dilate slightly, expanding to allow easier blood flow and reducing peripheral resistance. At the same time, your kidneys adjust their fluid balance and hormone production in ways that help lower blood pressure. The result is a circulation system that's running in a lower gear, doing its essential job of delivering oxygen and nutrients to tissues, but doing so more efficiently and with less strain. Your breathing also changes significantly during sleep. While awake, your breathing pattern is influenced by many factors: your activity level, your emotional state, what you're doing or thinking about, even whether you're talking. The respiratory centers in your brainstem maintain a background rhythm, but this rhythm is constantly modulated by conscious and unconscious inputs. You might take a deep breath because you're stressed, or hold your breath while concentrating, or breathe rapidly during exercise. During sleep, breathing becomes more regular and more automatic, controlled primarily by those brainstem centers with less interference from higher brain regions. In the early stages of sleep, breathing may actually become somewhat irregular as the transition occurs, sometimes even including brief pauses or variations in depth. But as you move into deeper sleep, breathing typically settles into a steady, rhythmic pattern that's quite consistent from one breath to the next. The rate of breathing usually slows somewhat during sleep, and the depth of each breath may decrease slightly as well. This is appropriate because your metabolic rate decreases during sleep. You're not moving, not actively thinking, using less energy overall, so you need less oxygen and produce less carbon dioxide. The respiratory system adjusts to match these reduced needs. However, the relationship between sleep stages and breathing is complex. During REM sleep, breathing becomes irregular again, with the rate and depth varying considerably. This irregular breathing during REM is part of what makes this sleep stage so paradoxical. Your brain is very active, your eyes are moving rapidly, and your breathing pattern looks more like wakefulness than sleep, yet you're profoundly unconscious and your muscles are paralyzed. The shift in autonomic balance during sleep also affects your body's stress response systems. During waking hours, your body is prepared to respond to threats and challenges. The sympathetic nervous system keeps you ready for action, and your adrenal glands produce hormones like cortisol and adrenaline that mobilize energy and sharpen alertness. But during sleep, particularly during the first half of the night when deep sleep predominates, the production of stress hormones is suppressed. Cortisol levels drop to their lowest point of the day during this time, and the sympathetic nervous system's activity is minimized. This nightly reduction in stress hormone levels appears to be essential for health. Chronic exposure to elevated cortisol and sympathetic activation is associated with numerous health problems, including high blood pressure, immune suppression, cognitive impairment, and metabolic dysfunction. Sleep provides a protected period when these systems can rest, when your body can stop being on high alert and instead focus on repair and restoration. The pattern of autonomic function through the night follows the cycling between different sleep stages. During non-REM sleep, especially slow-wave sleep, parasympathetic dominance is most pronounced. Heart rate is slowest, blood pressure is lowest, breathing is most regular. But during REM sleep, the autonomic pattern changes dramatically. Sympathetic activity increases, heart rate becomes more variable and can spike to levels seen during waking hours, blood pressure rises and becomes less stable, and breathing becomes irregular. Why would the body shift back towards sympathetic activation during REM sleep, given that restoration seems to require parasympathetic dominance? The answer likely relates to what's happening in the brain during REM. This is when the most intense dreaming occurs, when your brain is processing emotions and consolidating certain types of memories. The activation of sympathetic systems during REM might be necessary to support this intense mental activity, even though it means temporarily moving away from the restorative state that characterizes non-REM sleep. Interestingly, this autonomic cycling through the night may contribute to the timing of certain medical events. Heart attacks, for instance, are more likely to occur in the early morning hours, coinciding with the shift from sleep to wakefulness when sympathetic activity surges and puts increased stress on the cardiovascular system. Similarly, certain cardiac arrhythmias are more common during REM sleep, when heart rate variability increases and autonomic control becomes less stable. The health consequences of disrupted autonomic function during sleep are significant. Sleep apnea, a condition where people repeatedly stop breathing during sleep, causes dramatic fluctuations in autonomic activity. When breathing stops, oxygen levels drop, triggering a surge in sympathetic activity that helps wake the person just enough to start breathing again. But this repeated sympathetic activation throughout the night is harmful, contributing to hypertension, heart disease, and stroke. People with severe sleep apnea never get to experience the full parasympathetic dominance that normally characterizes healthy sleep, and their cardiovascular systems suffer as a result. Chronic insomnia also affects autonomic function, though in different ways. People with insomnia often show elevated sympathetic activity even during sleep, with higher heart rates and less heart rate variability than good sleepers. Their bodies seem unable to fully shift into the restorative parasympathetic state, leaving them in a kind of hyper-aroused condition that persists through the night. This may explain why insomnia is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease and other health problems beyond just feeling tired. The measurement of heart rate variability during sleep has become an important tool for assessing autonomic function and overall health. Heart rate variability refers to the variation in time intervals between consecutive heartbeats. Paradoxically, higher variability is generally better. It indicates that your autonomic nervous system is flexible and responsive, able to adjust heart rate moment to moment based on changing needs. During healthy sleep, heart rate variability follows a predictable pattern, increasing during non-REM sleep, reflecting strong parasympathetic influence, and decreasing during REM sleep, reflecting more sympathetic activation. People with various health conditions show reduced heart rate variability during sleep. This includes not just cardiovascular diseases, but also conditions like diabetes, chronic pain, and depression. The autonomic dysfunction revealed by abnormal heart rate variability during sleep may contribute to disease progression and help explain the strong link between poor sleep and poor health outcomes. As you lie sleeping tonight, your autonomic nervous system will be conducting its own symphony, orchestrating the rhythm of your heartbeat, the rise and fall of your breathing, the ebb and flow of blood through your vessels. It will shift the balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic influence as you cycle through different sleep stages, ensuring that deep sleep provides maximum restoration while REM sleep supports the brain's intense activity. Your heart will slow and speed up, your blood pressure will rise and fall, your breathing will settle into regularity and then become irregular again, all following ancient patterns that have kept sleeping mammals alive and healthy for millions of years. This autonomic control during sleep happens entirely without your awareness or input. You cannot consciously slow your heart rate during deep sleep, cannot voluntarily lower your blood pressure, cannot deliberately increase your parasympathetic tone. These processes emerge from the complex interplay of brainstem circuits, hormonal signals, and neural pathways that operate beneath the level of consciousness. They represent another layer of the invisible work your body performs every night, another aspect of the secret systems keeping you alive while you sleep. Hormonal tides of the night. Your endocrine system, the network of glands that produce and release hormones into your bloodstream, follows a complex schedule that's intimately connected to your sleep-wake cycle. Throughout the night, various hormones rise and fall in carefully orchestrated patterns, each playing specific roles in restoration, growth, metabolism, and preparation for the coming day. Understanding these hormonal rhythms reveals yet another dimension of why sleep is so essential for health. Perhaps the most dramatic hormonal change that occurs during sleep involves growth hormone. During waking hours, growth hormone levels in your bloodstream are generally quite low, with only occasional small pulses of secretion. But shortly after you fall asleep, something remarkable happens. As you sink into deep, slow-wave sleep, your pituitary gland, a pea-sized structure at the base of your brain, begins releasing large amounts of growth hormone into your bloodstream. This surge typically occurs during the first major period of slow-wave sleep, usually within the first hour or two after falling asleep. The amount of growth hormone released during this initial sleep period can be 10 to 20 times higher than the levels seen during waking hours. It's a massive pulse of this crucial hormone, and it happens with such consistency that sleep researchers can practically predict its occurrence based on when someone falls asleep. If you stay up late, the growth hormone surge is delayed. If you take a nap, you might get a smaller growth hormone pulse during the nap. The release is triggered by the specific brain state of slow-wave sleep, with its characteristic delta waves and synchronized neural activity. Growth hormone's effects are far-reaching. Despite its name, it's not just about physical growth, though it certainly plays that role in children and adolescents. In adults, growth hormone promotes tissue repair and muscle growth, stimulates the breakdown of fat for energy, strengthens bones, and enhances immune function. After a day of activity that has caused micro-damage to muscle fibers, accumulated cellular waste, and depleted energy stores, this nightly surge of growth hormone helps initiate repair and rebuilding processes throughout your body. The release of growth hormone during sleep appears to be regulated by several interconnected systems. A brain region called the hypothalamus produces growth hormone-releasing hormone, which travels to the pituitary and stimulates growth hormone secretion. At the same time, another hormone called somatostatin, also from the hypothalamus, can inhibit growth hormone release. During slow-wave sleep, somatostatin levels decrease and growth hormone-releasing hormone levels increase, creating the perfect conditions for that characteristic pulse of growth hormone. Interestingly, many factors that affect sleep also affect growth hormone secretion. Sleep deprivation reduces growth hormone release, as you might expect. But so do various stressors, excess body fat, and aging. As people get older, they tend to spend less time in slow-wave sleep, and correspondingly, their nocturnal growth hormone secretion decreases. This age-related decline in growth hormone may contribute to some of the changes we associate with aging: decreased muscle mass, increased body fat, reduced bone density, slower healing. The connection between sleep and growth hormone suggests that maintaining good sleep quality as we age might help preserve growth hormone secretion and potentially slow some aspects of aging. While growth hormone rises during the early night, another crucial hormone follows the opposite pattern. Cortisol, often called the stress hormone, reaches its lowest levels during the first half of the night, typically bottoming out around midnight to 2 in the morning. This suppression of cortisol during early sleep appears to be actively maintained by sleep itself. If you're sleep-deprived or experiencing fragmented sleep, cortisol levels don't drop as much as they should, remaining elevated through the night. But cortisol doesn't stay low all night. Beginning in the early morning hours, several hours before you wake, cortisol levels start to rise. This increase is driven by your circadian clock, the master timekeeper in your brain that anticipates the coming day. The rise accelerates as morning approaches, and cortisol levels typically peak within 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up. This morning cortisol surge serves important functions. It helps mobilize energy stores to prepare your body for the active day ahead. It enhances alertness and cognitive function, and it helps regulate your immune system and inflammatory responses. The timing of the cortisol rise is remarkably consistent for each individual, occurring at roughly the same time each day regardless of when you actually wake up. If you normally wake at 7 in the morning, your cortisol will start rising around 4 or 5, peaking around 7:30. If you sleep in on the weekend, your cortisol will still rise at its programmed time, though the peak might be slightly delayed. This reflects the strong influence of your circadian clock on cortisol regulation. The nightly pattern of cortisol, low during early sleep, rising before waking, is so important that disruption of this rhythm is associated with numerous health problems. People who don't show the normal cortisol decline during sleep, often due to chronic stress or sleep disorders, are at increased risk for obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and depression. The body seems to need this period of low cortisol during sleep to recover from the day's stresses and prepare for effective stress responses the next day. Another hormone with a strong sleep connection is melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, though this label is somewhat misleading. Melatonin doesn't cause sleep directly, but rather signals to your body that it's nighttime and prepares various systems for sleep. It's produced by the pineal gland, a small structure deep in your brain, in response to darkness. When light hits your eyes, even through closed eyelids, it sends signals to the pineal gland that suppress melatonin production. When darkness falls, this suppression is lifted, and melatonin levels begin to rise. In most people, melatonin starts increasing in the early evening, a couple of hours before their habitual bedtime. Levels continue rising through the early part of the night, typically peaking between 2 and 4 in the morning, and then begin to decline. By the time you wake up in the morning, melatonin levels have dropped back to barely detectable levels. This pattern repeats every 24 hours, driven by your circadian clock but modulated by light exposure. Melatonin has multiple effects that promote sleep. It causes a slight decrease in core body temperature, and this cooling effect may help initiate sleep since falling body temperature is a signal for sleep onset. Melatonin also seems to enhance the activity of sleep-promoting areas in the brain while reducing activity in wake-promoting regions. Additionally, it has antioxidant properties and may help protect cells from damage during the night. The relationship between melatonin and sleep is complex and still not fully understood. Taking melatonin supplements can help with certain sleep problems, particularly those related to circadian rhythm disruption like jet lag or shift work. But melatonin supplements don't work the same way as sleeping pills. They don't force you into sleep. They simply help shift your circadian timing to make sleep more likely at a desired time. Exposure to artificial light in the evening, particularly the blue wavelengths emitted by phones, tablets, and computer screens, can suppress melatonin production and delay its normal evening rise. This is one reason why using electronic devices before bed can interfere with sleep, not just because of the stimulating content, but because the light itself is sending your brain a biological signal that it's still daytime. Other hormones also show distinct patterns related to sleep. Prolactin, a hormone with roles in reproduction and immune function, increases during sleep. Thyroid-stimulating hormone, which regulates your thyroid gland and influences metabolism, shows a peak during sleep that's suppressed if you stay awake. Leptin and ghrelin, hormones that regulate appetite and energy balance, both show sleep-related patterns. Leptin, which signals satiety and fullness, increases during sleep, while ghrelin, which stimulates appetite, decreases. When sleep is disrupted or insufficient, these patterns are altered. Leptin doesn't rise as much, ghrelin doesn't fall as much, which may explain why sleep-deprived people tend to feel hungrier and have more difficulty regulating their food intake. Even sex hormones like testosterone show circadian patterns with a strong sleep connection. In men, testosterone levels are typically highest in the early morning, after a night of sleep, and lowest in the evening. Much of this testosterone production appears to occur during sleep, particularly during REM sleep. Men with sleep disorders or chronic sleep deprivation often show reduced testosterone levels, which can affect energy, mood, libido, and muscle mass. The coordination of all these hormonal patterns during sleep is orchestrated primarily by two systems working in concert: your circadian clock and the sleep homeostatic system. The circadian clock, located in a region of the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, maintains a roughly 24-hour rhythm that continues even in the absence of external time cues. It regulates the timing of hormone release throughout the day and night, including the evening rise in melatonin, the early morning surge in cortisol, and many other rhythmic patterns. The sleep homeostatic system, in contrast, tracks how long you've been awake and builds up sleep pressure over time. The longer you're awake, the stronger this pressure becomes, eventually compelling you to sleep. During sleep, this pressure dissipates, and by morning you're ready to wake. The homeostatic system influences hormone patterns differently than the circadian clock does. For instance, the growth hormone pulse is more closely tied to actual sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep, rather than to the time of day. These two systems, circadian and homeostatic, work together to create the full pattern of hormone fluctuations across the 24-hour day. When they're properly aligned, with sleep occurring at the right time according to your circadian rhythm, hormone patterns are optimized. But when they're misaligned, as happens with shift work or jet lag, hormonal patterns become disrupted, contributing to the health problems associated with circadian misalignment. The hormonal changes during sleep serve multiple purposes. Some hormones, like growth hormone, actively promote restoration and repair during sleep. Others, like melatonin and cortisol, help regulate the timing of sleep and wakefulness, ensuring that sleep occurs at the optimal circadian time. Still others, like the appetite hormones, reflect the changing metabolic needs of sleeping versus waking states. Together, they create a complex endocrine environment that's fundamentally different during sleep than during wakefulness. Disruption of these hormonal patterns can have wide-ranging consequences. Chronic sleep loss leads to reduced growth hormone secretion, elevated evening cortisol, disrupted appetite hormone patterns, and altered sex hormone production. Over time, these changes can contribute to metabolic dysfunction, weight gain, accelerated aging, reduced immune function, and increased disease risk. The endocrine system, like other bodily systems, relies on the regular occurrence of sleep to maintain its proper function. As you sleep tonight, your hormonal landscape will shift and transform. Growth hormone will flood your bloodstream during those first deep sleep cycles, promoting repair and restoration. Cortisol will drop to its nadir, giving your stress response systems a chance to reset. Melatonin will peak in the small hours of the morning, reinforcing the darkness signal. Dozens of other hormones will follow their programmed patterns, rising and falling in the darkness, each contributing to the complex biochemical symphony that supports your health and well-being. When morning comes, the hormonal tide will shift again, preparing you for wakefulness. But during these quiet hours of sleep, your endocrine system performs essential maintenance work that cannot be done any other way. Your immune system's night shift. While you sleep, your immune system doesn't rest. In fact, sleep represents a critical period when your body's defenses are strengthened, when immune cells are produced and deployed, when the capacity to fight off infections and remember past encounters with pathogens is enhanced. The relationship between sleep and immune function is so strong that even a single night of poor sleep can measurably weaken your body's ability to defend itself against disease. Your immune system consists of two main branches that work together to protect you from harm. The innate immune system is your first line of defense, providing rapid but nonspecific responses to threats. It includes physical barriers like your skin, chemical barriers like stomach acid, and various cells that attack invaders without needing prior exposure to them. The adaptive immune system, in contrast, is slower to respond but highly specific, learning to recognize particular pathogens and building immunological memory that allows faster, stronger responses to threats you've encountered before. During waking hours, many immune cells circulate through your bloodstream, monitoring for signs of infection or injury. But as you fall asleep, something interesting happens. Certain types of immune cells begin to leave your bloodstream and migrate to other locations in your body, particularly to your lymph nodes. This redistribution isn't random. It appears to be an active process that enhances immune function during sleep. One of the most important cell types involved in this nighttime redistribution is the naive T cell. These are T cells that haven't yet encountered their specific target. They're essentially apprentice immune cells, circulating through your body waiting to find the particular pathogen they're designed to recognize. Studies have shown that naive T cells peak in lymph nodes during sleep and are lowest in the bloodstream during this time. They're leaving circulation and gathering in the lymph nodes, where they're most likely to encounter antigens, the molecular signatures of pathogens that trigger immune responses. This gathering of naive T cells in lymph nodes during sleep may be crucial for forming new immune responses. When you're exposed to a new pathogen, immune cells called antigen-presenting cells capture bits of the invader and bring them to lymph nodes, where they present these antigens to naive T cells. If a naive T cell recognizes its specific target, it becomes activated, proliferates into an army of cells capable of fighting that specific pathogen. And some of these cells become memory T cells that will remember this encounter for years or decades. The enhanced presence of naive T cells in lymph nodes during sleep may make this process more efficient, increasing your chances of mounting a strong immune response to new threats. The mechanism driving this nighttime migration involves both hormones and the autonomic nervous system. As you fall asleep and enter those first periods of deep, slow-wave sleep, sympathetic nervous system activity decreases. The neurotransmitters that keep you alert during the day, particularly norepinephrine, decline to low levels. This reduction in sympathetic activity appears to facilitate the movement of certain immune cells out of circulation and into lymphoid tissues. At the same time, hormone levels shift in ways that promote immune function. Growth hormone, which surges during slow-wave sleep, enhances the proliferation of various immune cells. Prolactin, another hormone that increases during sleep, supports immune cell survival and function. Meanwhile, cortisol, which can suppress certain immune responses, reaches its lowest levels during the first half of the night. This creates a hormonal environment that's favorable for immune activity. Less suppression from cortisol, more support from growth hormone and prolactin. Sleep also influences the production and release of cytokines, the signaling molecules that immune cells use to communicate with each other and coordinate responses to threats. Certain pro-inflammatory cytokines, including interleukin-1 and tumor necrosis factor, show increased production during sleep. This might seem counterintuitive. Why would your body increase inflammation while you're sleeping? But these cytokines don't just cause inflammation. They also promote sleep itself, creating a feedback loop where sleep enhances their production, and they in turn promote deeper sleep. This connection between sleep and inflammatory cytokines may explain why you tend to sleep more when you're sick. When your body is fighting an infection, immune cells produce large amounts of these sleep-promoting cytokines as part of the inflammatory response. These molecules then act on your brain to increase sleepiness and enhance deep sleep. The result is that you feel compelled to rest, and this rest, in turn, supports your immune system's fight against the infection. The enhancement of immune function during sleep isn't limited to the adaptive immune system. Components of the innate immune system also show sleep-related patterns. Natural killer cells, which are important for destroying virus-infected cells and cancer cells, show fluctuations across the sleep-wake cycle, with some research suggesting their activity is enhanced during certain sleep stages. The complement system, a set of proteins that help antibodies and immune cells clear pathogens, also shows circadian regulation that's influenced by sleep. Perhaps most importantly, sleep appears to be crucial for forming immunological memory, your body's ability to remember past encounters with pathogens and mount faster, stronger responses if you encounter them again. This is the basis of vaccination. You're exposed to a killed or weakened version of a pathogen, your immune system learns to recognize it, and memory cells are created that will protect you if you ever encounter the real thing. Research has shown that people who get adequate sleep after vaccination produce more antibodies and develop stronger immunological memory than people who are sleep-deprived. In one study, people who slept normally after receiving a hepatitis vaccine showed twice the antibody response compared to people who were kept awake the night after vaccination. The sleep-deprived group's immune systems failed to properly consolidate the memory of the vaccine antigens, resulting in weaker long-term protection. This consolidation of immunological memory during sleep may involve similar mechanisms to the consolidation of other types of memory. Just as your brain reviews and strengthens neural connections related to things you learned while awake, your immune system appears to review and strengthen its recognition of antigens encountered during waking hours. The specific sleep stages that are most important for this process seem to be the same ones important for memory consolidation generally: slow-wave sleep and REM sleep. The immune effects of chronic sleep deprivation can be quite severe. People who consistently get less than 7 hours of sleep per night are nearly 3 times more likely to develop a cold when exposed to a virus, compared to those who sleep 8 hours or more. Chronic sleep restriction is associated with higher levels of inflammatory markers in the blood, even in otherwise healthy people, suggesting a state of low-grade chronic inflammation that can contribute to various diseases. Sleep deprivation also affects the function of existing immune cells. Natural killer cells show reduced activity after sleep loss, becoming less effective at destroying infected or cancerous cells. T cells may be less able to attach to their targets after sleep deprivation, reducing their effectiveness in fighting infections. The production of antibodies in response to vaccination is impaired. All of these effects demonstrate that inadequate sleep doesn't just make you feel tired, it fundamentally weakens your body's ability to defend itself. The connection between sleep and immune function may also help explain the bidirectional relationship between sleep and illness. Not only does poor sleep increase susceptibility to infections, but infections and inflammatory conditions can disrupt sleep. People with chronic inflammatory conditions often suffer from sleep disturbances, which can further impair immune function, creating a vicious cycle that's difficult to break. During sleep tonight, your immune system will be hard at work. Naive T cells will migrate from your bloodstream to your lymph nodes, positioning themselves where they're most likely to encounter new threats. Pro-inflammatory cytokines will be produced, supporting both immune responses and the maintenance of sleep itself. Growth hormone and other sleep-related hormones will enhance immune cell proliferation and function. If you received a vaccine recently, or if you were exposed to any pathogens during the day, your adaptive immune system will be reviewing those encounters, strengthening its recognition and response capabilities, building the immunological memory that will protect you in the future. This invisible army, working through the darkness while you're unconscious and unaware, represents yet another layer of the secret systems keeping you alive. Every night that you sleep well, you're giving your immune system the time and support it needs to protect you. Every night of poor or insufficient sleep, you're compromising these defenses, leaving yourself more vulnerable to the countless threats your body encounters every day. Your immune system's night shift is every bit as essential as any daytime activity, and the work it does while you sleep cannot be replicated during waking hours. Temperature control, your body's thermostat. The regulation of body temperature during sleep reveals another fascinating dimension of how your body transforms during the night. Temperature and sleep are intimately connected through mechanisms that have profound effects on sleep quality, sleep timing, and the restorative functions that sleep serves. Understanding these thermal dynamics provides insight into why sleep environments matter so much and how your body coordinates multiple systems to support rest. Your core body temperature, the temperature deep inside your body where your vital organs reside, isn't constant throughout the day. Instead, it follows a predictable rhythm that's controlled by your circadian clock. During waking hours, core temperature gradually rises, typically peaking in the late afternoon or early evening. Then, several hours before your normal bedtime, it begins to decline. This temperature drop continues through the night, reaching its lowest point in the early morning hours, usually between 2 and 6 in the morning. Then it begins rising again before you wake, helping to prepare your body for the active day ahead. This circadian temperature rhythm is so robust that it continues even if you stay awake all night. Your core temperature will still drop during your normal sleep period, even without actual sleep. However, the presence of sleep modifies and enhances this temperature pattern. When you actually sleep, your core temperature drops more than it would if you simply rested quietly while awake. Sleep and temperature decline are synergistic, each promoting the other. The drop in core body temperature as you fall asleep is driven by several mechanisms. First, your metabolic rate decreases during sleep. You're not moving, not actively thinking in the same way as when awake, not engaging in any of the countless small movements and adjustments that characterize waking hours. This reduced metabolic activity means less heat production. Your brain, in particular, produces less metabolic heat during non-REM sleep, especially during slow-wave sleep with its decreased energy consumption. But the decrease in core temperature isn't just about producing less heat. Your body also actively increases heat loss during sleep through a fascinating mechanism involving your skin. As you prepare for sleep, blood vessels in your skin, particularly in your hands and feet, dilate dramatically. This vasodilation allows more warm blood from your core to flow to the surface of your skin, where heat can be radiated away to the environment. If you pay attention, you might notice that your hands and feet often feel warmer right before you fall asleep. This isn't your imagination, it's a real physiological change that promotes heat loss. This increase in skin temperature, particularly in your extremities, creates a temperature gradient between your core and your periphery. Heat flows from warm core to cooler periphery to even cooler environment, effectively pumping heat out of your body. Studies have shown that people with warmer hands and feet fall asleep faster, because this peripheral warmth indicates effective heat dissipation. Conversely, people with cold hands and feet often have trouble falling asleep, possibly because their blood vessels aren't dilating properly to allow heat loss. The autonomic nervous system plays a key role in these temperature changes. The shift toward parasympathetic dominance during sleep includes changes in how blood vessels are controlled. Sympathetic activity, which generally causes vasoconstriction and heat retention during waking hours, decreases during sleep. This allows the blood vessels in your skin to relax and expand, promoting heat loss. The result is that your core cools while your skin warms, especially at your extremities. The importance of this temperature regulation for sleep is evident in what happens when it's disrupted. If your bedroom is too warm, your body has difficulty dissipating heat effectively, which can make it harder to fall asleep and can reduce the amount of deep sleep you get. Research has shown that even small increases in ambient temperature, particularly if they prevent your core temperature from dropping normally, can fragment sleep and reduce sleep quality. This is why most sleep experts recommend keeping bedrooms relatively cool, typically between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. On the other hand, if you're too cold, that can also disrupt sleep, though for different reasons. When your core temperature drops too much, or if your skin temperature drops below a comfortable level, your body activates heat conservation mechanisms like shivering and vasoconstriction. These responses are incompatible with sleep and can cause awakenings. The ideal thermal environment for sleep is one that's cool enough to allow your core temperature to drop normally, but not so cold that your body needs to actively generate heat to maintain comfortable skin temperature. The relationship between temperature and different sleep stages adds another layer of complexity. During non-REM sleep, especially slow-wave sleep, your body maintains some capacity for temperature regulation. If you become too warm or too cold, thermoregulatory mechanisms like sweating or shivering can still operate, though they may be somewhat dampened compared to waking hours. But during REM sleep, something remarkable happens. Your body essentially stops regulating temperature. During REM sleep, the mechanisms that normally keep your core temperature within a narrow range are suspended. You don't sweat if you're too warm, don't shiver if you're too cold, don't adjust your blood vessel diameter to modulate heat loss. You become, temporarily, more like a cold-blooded animal whose body temperature is determined by the environment rather than by internal regulation. This is one reason why REM sleep is so vulnerable to thermal disruption. If the environment becomes too warm or too cold during REM, you're likely to wake up rather than continuing to sleep through it. This suspension of thermoregulation during REM might seem dangerous, but it probably isn't in normal circumstances. REM sleep tends to occur more in the later part of the night, after you've already cooled down and established thermal equilibrium with your sleep environment. The room temperature, bedding, and sleepwear that allowed you to fall asleep and get through the earlier sleep stages are likely to be adequate for REM sleep as well. Problems arise mainly when the environment changes during the night. For instance, if the room becomes much warmer or cooler than it was at sleep onset. The effect of temperature on sleep may help explain certain sleep behaviors that seem almost universal across cultures. Humans, like many mammals, engage in what researchers call thermoregulatory behaviors before sleep. We adjust our clothing, modify our bedding, curl up to minimize exposed surface area, or sprawl out to maximize cooling, all in service of creating the right thermal conditions for sleep. These behaviors reflect an ancient wisdom. Getting temperature right is crucial for good sleep. Recent research has revealed an intriguing connection between skin warming and sleep onset that goes beyond simple comfort. Warming the skin, particularly in specific areas like the face, hands, or feet, can actually promote sleep even if it doesn't change core temperature much. Scientists believe this works through neuronal pathways that connect temperature sensors in the skin to sleep-promoting areas of the brain. When these sensors detect warmth, particularly if it's localized to the right areas, they send signals that facilitate the transition from wakefulness to sleep. This may be why many people find that a warm bath or shower before bed helps them sleep better. The warm water raises skin temperature and causes blood vessels to dilate. Then, after you get out of the bath, your core temperature drops more rapidly than it would have otherwise, because your dilated blood vessels allow efficient heat dissipation. The combination of warm skin and dropping core temperature creates ideal conditions for sleep onset. The relationship between sleep and temperature extends beyond just the process of falling asleep and staying asleep. Temperature regulation during sleep may serve important functions for the body's restorative processes. The drop in core temperature during sleep reduces metabolic demands, conserving energy. This energy savings might allow more resources to be devoted to repair and maintenance functions. The reduced temperature might also help protect cells from damage, since many harmful biochemical reactions proceed more slowly at lower temperatures. Some researchers have proposed that one fundamental purpose of sleep might be to allow safe cooling of the body and brain. During waking hours, high levels of brain activity generate significant heat, and this heat must be managed to prevent damage to temperature-sensitive neural circuits. Sleep, with its reduced brain activity and enhanced heat dissipation, might be the body's solution to this thermal challenge. While this is just one of many proposed functions for sleep, the tight coupling between temperature and sleep suggests that thermal regulation is at least part of the picture. As you sleep tonight, your core temperature will follow its programmed decline, dropping by as much as 1 degree or 2 Fahrenheit from its daytime levels. Blood vessels in your hands and feet will dilate, allowing heat to escape from your body's core. Your metabolic rate will decrease, producing less heat overall. During slow-wave sleep, your brain's temperature will drop along with your body's. Then, during REM sleep, your thermoregulatory systems will temporarily shut down, leaving your temperature to drift slightly with environmental conditions. If everything goes well, if your sleep environment is appropriate and your circadian rhythm is aligned with your sleep schedule, these temperature changes will proceed smoothly, supporting the deep, restorative sleep your body needs. Come morning, as your circadian clock triggers the morning rise in core temperature, you'll begin the natural transition back to wakefulness, your body warming and energizing in preparation for another day. But during these hours of darkness, temperature control is yet another secret system working in the background, coordinating with all the others to keep you alive and healthy while you sleep. Memory consolidation and neural plasticity. While you sleep, your brain is far from idle when it comes to processing the information you encountered during the day. One of the most important functions of sleep, particularly certain sleep stages, is the consolidation of memories, the process of transforming fragile, temporary memories into stable, long-lasting ones that can be recalled weeks, months, or even years later. This process involves the selective strengthening of some neural connections while weakening others, in a dance of neural plasticity that occurs primarily during sleep. Memory isn't a single thing, but rather a collection of different systems that store different types of information. Declarative memories are facts and events you can consciously recall. What you had for breakfast, the capital of France, your grandmother's birthday. Procedural memories are skills and habits that you perform without conscious thought. Riding a bicycle, typing on a keyboard, swimming. These different memory types are processed and consolidated during different stages of sleep. During waking hours, when you experience something new or learn something, your brain forms what's called an encoding, a neural representation of that experience. Initially, this encoding is fragile and prone to disruption. It exists primarily in the hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain that specializes in forming new memories. But these hippocampal memories are temporary. For memories to last, they need to be transferred to the neocortex, the outer layers of the brain where long-term storage occurs. This transfer process, called systems consolidation, happens primarily during sleep. The specific mechanism involves a dialogue between the hippocampus and the neocortex during sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep. The hippocampus replays the neural patterns it encoded during the day, sending these patterns out to the neocortex repeatedly. Each replay strengthens the connections in the neocortex that represent the memory, gradually making those connections independent of the hippocampus. Eventually, the memory can be recalled directly from the neocortex without hippocampal involvement, freeing up the hippocampus to encode new memories the next day. Scientists have observed this replay process directly in animal studies. When rats run through a maze during the day, specific patterns of neural activity in their hippocampus correspond to their location in the maze. Later, during sleep, these same patterns reactivate in the hippocampus, but in a compressed, faster timescale. The rat's brain is essentially replaying its journey through the maze over and over while the rat sleeps. Similar replay has been observed in humans using advanced brain imaging techniques. This replay isn't random. Your brain selectively replays memories that are important or emotionally significant, strengthening those connections preferentially. If you studied for an exam during the day, or had a meaningful conversation, or experienced something frightening or exciting, these memories are more likely to be replayed and consolidated during sleep. Less important information may not be replayed as much, or may even be actively forgotten to make room for more relevant memories. The process is aided by those sleep spindles and slow oscillations that characterize stage 2 and slow-wave sleep. Sleep spindles appear to provide temporal windows when the cortex is particularly receptive to incoming information from the hippocampus. The slow oscillations, those massive waves of neural synchrony during deep sleep, seem to coordinate the timing of memory replay. Together, these sleep-specific brain patterns create an optimal environment for transferring information from temporary to permanent storage. But memory consolidation during sleep isn't just about transferring memories from one brain region to another. It also involves a process called synaptic homeostasis, which is essentially the brain's way of balancing its neural connections. During waking hours, as you learn and experience things, synapses, the connections between neurons, are strengthened. Each new fact learned, each new skill practiced, each new experience encountered creates or strengthens synaptic connections. But there's a problem with this constant strengthening. If it continued unchecked, synapses would eventually become saturated, unable to encode any more information. Energy demands would skyrocket, since maintaining strong synapses requires significant cellular resources. The brain would lose its ability to differentiate important connections from unimportant ones. Sleep appears to be the solution to this problem. During sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep, your brain engages in a process of synaptic downscaling. The connections that were strengthened during the day are selectively weakened, but not uniformly. Important connections, the ones representing significant memories or frequently used neural pathways, are protected or even strengthened further. Less important connections, the ones representing trivial information or random noise, are weakened more aggressively. The result is a neural network that's been pruned and optimized, keeping the signal while reducing the noise. This synaptic homeostasis serves multiple purposes. It reduces overall energy demands, since weaker synapses require less energy to maintain. It makes important memories stand out more clearly against the background of less important information. It prepares the brain to learn new things the next day by creating space in the neural network for new connections. Without this nightly synaptic reset, learning would become progressively more difficult. REM sleep plays a different but equally important role in memory processing. While slow-wave sleep seems particularly important for declarative memory consolidation, REM sleep appears crucial for consolidating procedural memories and for integrating new memories with existing knowledge. During REM, your brain is highly active, and this activity involves widespread communication between different brain regions. This is when your brain can make unexpected connections, linking new information with old memories in creative ways. It's during REM sleep that you might unconsciously solve a problem that had stumped you during the day, or come up with a creative insight that eluded you while awake. The brain, freed from the constraints of sensory input and logical thinking that characterize waking consciousness, can explore associations more freely, potentially discovering useful connections that wouldn't be obvious during directed thought. Dreams, which occur most vividly during REM sleep, may reflect this associative processing. The bizarre, illogical narratives of dreams might represent your brain exploring different combinations of memories and concepts, testing out various connections to see what makes sense. While most of these dream scenarios are quickly forgotten and probably not particularly useful, occasionally this process generates genuine insights or creative solutions. The importance of sleep for memory is evident in what happens when people are deprived of specific sleep stages. Deprivation of slow-wave sleep impairs the consolidation of declarative memories. People remember fewer facts, events, and explicit information. Deprivation of REM sleep impairs procedural learning and creative problem-solving. Total sleep deprivation impairs both types of memory and also impairs the ability to form new memories the next day. Students who pull all-nighters before exams, thinking they're maximizing study time, are actually sabotaging their memory consolidation. The information they studied the previous evening won't be properly consolidated without sleep, making it harder to recall during the exam. They'd be better off getting adequate sleep and studying less, because the sleep would help cement what they did study into long-term memory. The memory effects of sleep extend beyond just consolidating individual memories. Sleep also appears to facilitate the extraction of general rules and patterns from specific experiences, a process called schema formation. After a night of sleep, people are better able to see the underlying structure in information they learned the previous day, to generalize from specific examples to broader principles. This may be why sleep helps with problem solving. It's not just that you remember the problem better, but that sleep helps you see it in a new light, to recognize patterns or structures you missed while awake. The neural plasticity that occurs during sleep, the strengthening and weakening of synapses based on experience, is ongoing throughout life but is particularly important during development. Infants and young children spend much more time sleeping than adults do, particularly in REM sleep. This extensive sleep may be necessary to support the massive learning and brain development occurring during these years. The connections being formed and refined during childhood sleep literally shape the developing brain, influencing everything from language acquisition to emotional regulation. Even in adults, sleep continues to play a crucial role in brain plasticity and adaptation. Learning a new skill, whether it's a musical instrument or a sport or a language, requires not just practice but also sleep. The sleep following practice sessions is when the brain consolidates what was learned, strengthening the neural circuits involved in the new skill. This is why practicing a piece of music or a tennis serve often feels easier the day after practice than it did during practice. Your brain has used sleep to optimize the relevant neural pathways. As you sleep tonight, your brain will engage in this intricate process of memory consolidation and synaptic homeostasis. The hippocampus will replay the day's experiences, sending them out to the cortex for permanent storage. Sleep spindles will create windows of opportunity for these memories to be integrated into your existing knowledge networks. Slow oscillations will coordinate the process, ensuring that different brain regions work together in synchrony. Synapses will be strengthened or weakened based on their importance, optimizing your neural networks for another day of learning. In REM sleep, your brain will make unexpected connections, integrating new memories with old in creative ways, exploring associations that might lead to insights or solutions. The dreams you experience and mostly forget will reflect this associative processing, this exploration of the space of possible connections between memories and concepts. And when you wake in the morning, you'll emerge with memories more firmly established, with neural networks optimized and pruned, with creative insights potentially waiting to be recognized, all thanks to the invisible work your brain performed while you slept. The metabolic reset. Sleep profoundly affects your metabolism, the vast network of chemical reactions that breaks down nutrients for energy, builds new molecules for cell structure and function, and maintains the delicate balance between energy storage and energy expenditure. During sleep, your metabolic systems undergo important changes that help regulate everything from blood sugar levels to fat storage to cellular energy production. These metabolic adjustments reveal yet another dimension of how sleep maintains your health. Your metabolic rate, the speed at which your body burns calories to fuel all its activities, decreases during sleep. This makes intuitive sense. You're not moving, not actively engaged with the environment, not performing any of the energy-demanding tasks that fill your waking hours. During non-REM sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep, your metabolic rate can drop by 10 to 15% or more compared to quiet wakefulness. Your brain uses less energy, your muscles are inactive, your core temperature is lower, all contributing to reduced energy consumption. But this decrease in metabolic rate isn't just about conserving energy. It appears to serve important regulatory functions. The reduced energy demands during sleep allow your body to shift from a mode focused on immediate energy availability to one focused on storage, repair, and long-term maintenance. Resources that might be dedicated to supporting activity during waking hours can instead be directed towards cellular repair, protein synthesis, and other anabolic processes. One of the most important metabolic systems affected by sleep involves glucose regulation. Glucose, the primary fuel for your brain and many other tissues, is carefully regulated by hormones, particularly insulin. When you eat, blood glucose levels rise, triggering the release of insulin from your pancreas. Insulin helps cells take up glucose from the bloodstream, both for immediate energy and for storage as glycogen. Between meals, when blood glucose starts to drop, other hormones like glucagon promote the release of stored glucose to maintain stable blood sugar levels. During sleep, this glucose regulation system undergoes specific changes. Insulin sensitivity, which refers to how responsive your cells are to insulin signals, actually improves during sleep under normal circumstances. This increased sensitivity means your body needs less insulin to manage glucose effectively. At the same time, glucose uptake by the brain decreases during non-REM sleep as the brain's activity level and energy demands decrease. The result is that blood glucose levels can be maintained with less insulin, which may give your pancreas time to rest and recover. However, this beneficial effect on glucose regulation is extremely sensitive to sleep quality and duration. When sleep is disrupted or insufficient, glucose regulation deteriorates rapidly. Even a single night of sleep deprivation can induce a state resembling prediabetes, where cells become less responsive to insulin and blood sugar levels rise. Chronic sleep restriction, getting 6 hours or less per night regularly, significantly increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, even in otherwise healthy people. The mechanism behind this sleep loss-induced metabolic dysfunction is complex but appears to involve multiple pathways. Reduced insulin sensitivity is one factor. When you're sleep-deprived, your muscle cells, fat cells, and liver cells all become less responsive to insulin, requiring more insulin to achieve the same level of glucose uptake. At the same time, sleep deprivation increases the production of stress hormones like cortisol and the activity of the sympathetic nervous system, both of which promote glucose release and inhibit glucose storage. Sleep also affects how your body handles dietary fats. During sleep, particularly in the first half of the night, fat oxidation increases. Your body preferentially burns fat for energy. This makes sense metabolically, since glucose stores are limited and need to be preserved for the brain's use, while fat stores are much larger and can provide sustained energy through the night. The shift toward fat metabolism during sleep may also help regulate body weight and fat storage over the long term. Growth hormone, which surges during slow-wave sleep as discussed earlier, plays an important role in this metabolic shift. One of growth hormone's effects is to promote lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat into fatty acids that can be burned for energy. It also reduces glucose uptake by muscles, helping to preserve glucose for the brain. These metabolic effects of growth hormone complement the general shift toward fat oxidation during sleep. The regulation of appetite and food intake is also closely tied to sleep through hormonal mechanisms. Leptin and ghrelin, often called the hunger hormones, show distinct patterns across the sleep-wake cycle. Leptin, which is produced by fat cells and signals satiety to the brain, typically increases during sleep. This makes sense because you're not eating during sleep, so you need signals that suppress appetite. Ghrelin, which is produced by the stomach and stimulates hunger, typically decreases during sleep for the same reason. But when sleep is disrupted or insufficient, these hormonal patterns are altered. Leptin levels don't rise as much as they should, reducing satiety signaling. Ghrelin levels don't fall as much as they should, or may even rise, increasing hunger signaling. The result is that sleep-deprived people feel hungrier than they should given their energy needs. They tend to eat more, particularly high-calorie foods rich in carbohydrates and fats, which may help explain the strong link between chronic sleep loss and obesity. The effects extend beyond just how much you eat to what you choose to eat. Sleep deprivation appears to impair activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain region involved in decision-making and impulse control, while enhancing activity in reward-related brain regions. This combination makes it harder to resist tempting foods and more likely that you'll choose high-calorie options even when you know you shouldn't. It's not just that you're hungrier when sleep-deprived. Your brain's reward and control systems are also altered in ways that promote overeating. At the cellular level, sleep provides crucial time for energy systems to recover and restore their capacity. Adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, is the universal energy currency of cells. It's the molecule that directly powers most cellular processes. During waking hours, as cells break down glucose and fats to produce energy, they generate ATP but also produce metabolic byproducts and gradually deplete the efficiency of their energy-producing machinery. Sleep provides time for these systems to recover. The brain in particular shows evidence of metabolic restoration during sleep. During waking hours, the brain's energy stores, in the form of glycogen, are gradually depleted. During sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep, these stores are replenished. The cellular structures responsible for producing ATP, particularly the mitochondria, appear to undergo maintenance and quality control processes during sleep. Damaged mitochondria are removed, and new ones are synthesized, maintaining the cell's capacity for energy production. This metabolic restoration may be particularly important for neurons, which have extremely high energy demands. A neuron firing action potentials and maintaining synaptic communication can use a tremendous amount of ATP. During sleep, when neural activity is reduced and more synchronized, individual neurons have opportunities to restore their energy reserves and repair any damage incurred during the high-activity waking period. The protein synthesis that occurs during sleep is another crucial metabolic process. Proteins are the workhorses of cells, catalyzing reactions, providing structure, transporting molecules, and performing countless other functions. But proteins don't last forever. They accumulate damage over time and need to be replaced. Sleep provides protected time when protein synthesis can occur without competing with the high energy demands of waking activity. Many of the proteins synthesized during sleep are involved in growth, repair, and immune function. The growth hormone surge during slow-wave sleep stimulates protein synthesis in muscles and other tissues, supporting tissue repair and growth. Immune cells increase their production of proteins involved in fighting infections. The brain synthesizes proteins needed for synaptic plasticity and memory consolidation. This protein synthesis requires energy and raw materials, and sleep provides the metabolic environment where these resources can be allocated efficiently. Your liver, the body's main metabolic processing center, also undergoes specific changes during sleep. During waking hours, the liver is actively involved in regulating blood glucose, processing nutrients from recently consumed food, synthesizing proteins for export to other tissues, and detoxifying various substances. During sleep, particularly in the early night, the liver shifts its metabolic priorities. It may increase glycogen storage, enhance certain detoxification pathways, and perform maintenance on its own cellular machinery. The circadian clock within the liver helps coordinate these metabolic shifts. Liver cells have their own circadian rhythms that govern when different metabolic enzymes are produced and active. These rhythms are synchronized with the master clock in the brain and with the sleep-wake cycle, ensuring that metabolic processes occur at optimal times. When sleep is disrupted or occurs at unusual times, these coordinated rhythms can become misaligned, potentially contributing to metabolic dysfunction. As you sleep tonight, your metabolism will shift into its nighttime pattern. Your metabolic rate will decrease as your brain and body reduce their activity levels. Glucose regulation will stabilize, with improved insulin sensitivity and reduced glucose demands. Fat oxidation will increase as your body preferentially burns stored fat for the energy needed to maintain basic functions. Appetite hormones will shift towards suppressing hunger, appropriate for a fasting period. ATP stores will be replenished, mitochondria will be maintained, proteins will be synthesized, and metabolic enzymes will follow their circadian programs. This metabolic night shift is essential for health. It provides recovery time for energy systems, opportunity for anabolic processes that build and repair tissues, and regulation of systems that govern body weight and glucose homeostasis. When you consistently get good sleep, these metabolic processes can occur efficiently, helping to maintain healthy body weight, stable blood sugar, and efficient cellular energy production. When sleep is chronically disrupted, metabolic health deteriorates, increasing the risk of obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Integration, the whole system working together. All of these systems, the brain's electrical rhythms, the glymphatic cleaning system, the autonomic nervous system's orchestration of heart and lungs, the hormonal tides, the immune system's enhancement, the temperature regulation, the memory consolidation, and the metabolic adjustments don't operate in isolation. They're deeply interconnected, each influencing and being influenced by the others, creating a web of interactions that defines what sleep is and what it accomplishes. Consider how the brain's slow waves during deep sleep coordinate multiple systems simultaneously. These waves reflect synchronized neural activity, but they also drive glymphatic flow through the rhythmic expansion and contraction of blood vessels. The same slow waves are associated with maximum parasympathetic dominance, producing the slowest heart rates and most stable breathing of the night. They occur during the period of peak growth hormone secretion and lowest cortisol levels. They coincide with the most efficient memory consolidation and the greatest synaptic downscaling. They're present during the period of maximum immune cell migration to lymph nodes and enhanced cytokine production. This synchronization isn't coincidental. The slow waves appear to serve as a coordinating signal, a kind of conductor's baton that helps ensure different systems work together rather than at cross purposes. When your brain enters this deep, synchronized state, it sends signals throughout your body that this is time for restoration, for cleaning, for consolidation, for repair. Systems that might otherwise operate independently are brought into alignment, all working toward the common goal of maintaining and restoring your body's functions. The circadian clock plays a crucial coordinating role as well, though in a different way. While slow waves coordinate processes within sleep, the circadian clock coordinates processes across the 24-hour day. It determines when you feel sleepy and when you feel alert, when cortisol rises and when it falls, when melatonin is produced and when it's suppressed, when body temperature peaks and when it reaches its nadir. This circadian coordination ensures that sleep occurs at the optimal time, when other biological rhythms are aligned to support restorative processes. When the circadian clock and sleep are properly aligned, the benefits are maximized. Sleep occurring at your circadian low point in temperature and alertness is deeper and more restorative than sleep occurring at other times. Hormone patterns are optimized. Memory consolidation is enhanced. Immune function is supported. But when sleep and circadian rhythms are misaligned, as happens with shift work or jet lag, these benefits are compromised. You might get the same number of hours of sleep, but the quality of that sleep and the effectiveness of the restorative processes it supports are reduced. The autonomic nervous system provides another layer of coordination. The shift toward parasympathetic dominance during sleep doesn't just affect your heart and breathing, it has widespread effects throughout your body. It influences hormone secretion, immune function, digestive activity, and metabolism. The parasympathetic state creates an internal environment that's conducive to the restorative processes of sleep, while sympathetic activation does the opposite, promoting alertness and activity at the expense of restoration. This is why stress and anxiety, which activate the sympathetic nervous system, are so disruptive to sleep. When your sympathetic system is activated, it sends signals throughout your body that this is not the time for rest and restoration. Heart rate stays elevated, cortisol remains high, immune function may be suppressed, and the various restorative processes of sleep cannot proceed efficiently. The autonomic state and the quality of sleep are intimately connected, each influencing the other. The hormonal changes during sleep both coordinate and are coordinated by other systems. Growth hormone secretion depends on achieving slow-wave sleep, but growth hormone then influences metabolism, immune function, and tissue repair. Melatonin doesn't cause sleep directly, but promotes it by coordinating circadian signals, and it also has effects on immune function and antioxidant protection. Cortisol's nighttime suppression is influenced by sleep, but also influences immune activity and metabolism. Each hormone is both a cause and an effect, both coordinating and being coordinated by the larger system. The glymphatic system's dependence on sleep reveals another level of integration. This cleaning system requires the specific brain state of sleep to function efficiently. The reduced norepinephrine, the expanded extracellular spaces, the slow rhythmic waves of neural activity. But the glymphatic system in turn supports other sleep functions by removing metabolic waste that could interfere with neural activity and synaptic plasticity. Clean neurons work better, forming and consolidating memories more effectively, regulating hormone secretion more precisely, coordinating systems more efficiently. Understanding this integration helps explain why sleep deprivation has such widespread effects. When you don't sleep enough, you're not just tired. Your glymphatic system doesn't clean your brain adequately, allowing waste products to accumulate. Your autonomic balance is disrupted, with elevated sympathetic activity and reduced parasympathetic activity. Your hormones are dysregulated, less growth hormone, improperly timed cortisol, altered appetite hormones. Your immune system is compromised, with impaired memory cell formation and reduced capacity to fight infections. Your metabolism becomes dysfunctional, with reduced insulin sensitivity and altered fat regulation. Your memory consolidation is impaired, making learning difficult. All of these effects compound each other. The accumulated metabolic waste in your brain might impair the neural circuits that regulate hormones. The disrupted hormone patterns might interfere with immune function. The metabolic dysfunction might affect energy available for synaptic plasticity. The impaired autonomic function might disrupt temperature regulation. Rather than a collection of separate problems, Sleep deprivation creates a cascade of interconnected failures that progressively degrade your body's function. Conversely, good sleep creates a positive cascade. Adequate slow-wave sleep ensures efficient glymphatic clearance, optimal growth hormone secretion, maximum parasympathetic restoration, effective memory consolidation, and healthy metabolism. The clean brain works more efficiently, supporting better hormone regulation. The balanced hormones support immune function. The healthy metabolism provides energy for neural activity. The autonomic balance supports temperature regulation. Each system working well helps other systems work well, creating resilience and robustness. This integrated view of sleep also explains why sleep needs change across the lifespan. Infants and children, who are growing rapidly and learning constantly, need much more sleep than adults. Their increased sleep provides more time for growth hormone secretion, more opportunity for synaptic pruning and neural circuit refinement, more hours of memory consolidation. The extensive REM sleep in infancy may be particularly important for brain development, as REM sleep appears to support the formation of neural connections. As people age, sleep architecture changes in ways that may contribute to various age-related declines. Older adults tend to get less slow-wave sleep, which means less growth hormone secretion, less efficient glymphatic clearance, less effective memory consolidation. They often have more fragmented sleep, with frequent awakenings that disrupt the autonomic balance and hormonal patterns. The reduced sleep quality may accelerate age-related cognitive decline, weaken immune function, and increase disease risk. Finding ways to preserve sleep quality in aging may be crucial for healthy aging. The integration of sleep with other aspects of health extends beyond just internal physiology. Sleep is connected to nutrition, exercise, stress, social relationships, and environmental factors, all of which can influence sleep quality and all of which are influenced by sleep in return. A person who exercises regularly tends to sleep better, and better sleep supports the physical adaptations that make exercise more beneficial. Good nutrition supports sleep through various mechanisms, and good sleep helps regulate appetite and food choices. Strong social connections and low stress promote better sleep, and adequate sleep improves emotional regulation and stress resilience. This broader integration means that improving sleep requires a holistic approach. Simply trying to spend more time in bed won't necessarily improve sleep quality if other factors, stress, irregular schedules, poor sleep environment, lack of exercise, unhealthy diet, are undermining sleep. Similarly, addressing sleep problems can have unexpectedly broad benefits because of the many systems that sleep influences. Better sleep might improve not just alertness but also weight control, mood, immune function, and chronic disease risk. The remarkable thing about this integrated system is that it works largely automatically. You don't need to consciously coordinate your slow waves with your glymphatic flow, or synchronize your parasympathetic activity with your growth hormone secretion, or align your circadian clock with your sleep timing. These systems have evolved over millions of years to work together seamlessly, requiring nothing more from you than lying down in a dark, quiet, comfortable place and allowing the process to unfold. But this automatic coordination can be disrupted by modern life. Artificial light at night interferes with circadian rhythms and melatonin production. Shift work forces sleep to occur at circadian times when the body is prepared for wakefulness. Chronic stress keeps sympathetic activity elevated even during sleep. Environmental noise fragments sleep, preventing the long, uninterrupted bouts of slow-wave sleep needed for optimal restoration. Electronic devices stimulate the brain when it should be winding down. Caffeine consumed too late in the day blocks the sleep-promoting effects of adenosine. Understanding the integration of sleep systems provides motivation for protecting sleep and creating conditions that support it. When you realize that sleep isn't just rest but a coordinated symphony of restorative processes, that these processes are deeply interconnected and mutually supportive, that disrupting sleep disrupts this entire integrated system, the importance of prioritizing sleep becomes clear. Every night that you sleep well, you're giving your body the opportunity to perform this essential maintenance, to coordinate these vital systems, to restore and prepare for another day. Every night of poor sleep is a missed opportunity for restoration, a night when the coordination falters and the integrated system cannot perform its full function. As you drift into sleep tonight, as your eyes close and your breathing deepens, as consciousness fades and dreams begin to form, remember that this is not merely rest. This is not time lost from your life, but rather time invested in maintaining the extraordinary complexity of your biology. While you sleep, secret systems that you will never consciously perceive are working to keep you alive, to clean your brain, to strengthen your immune system, to consolidate your memories, to regulate your hormones, to restore your metabolism, to coordinate the countless processes that define your health and well-being. The brain waves that flow through your sleeping mind, the cerebrospinal fluid that washes through your brain tissue, the slowing of your heart and the deepening of your breath, the surge of growth hormone and the suppression of cortisol, the migration of immune cells and the consolidation of memories, the cooling of your core and the rhythmic breathing in the darkness. All of these are gifts from systems that evolved over millions of years to keep sleeping animals alive and healthy. They work without your knowledge, without your effort, without any conscious intervention at all. You need only provide the time and the conditions that allow these systems to do their work. The protection of darkness, the comfort of a good sleeping environment, the alignment of your schedule with your biological rhythms, the absence of substances and stimuli that disrupt sleep. In return, you receive something precious: restoration, health, the capacity to learn and remember, resilience against disease, the foundation for another day of conscious experience. So as you prepare for sleep tonight, as you turn off the lights and settle into bed, as you feel the gentle pull of drowsiness drawing you toward unconsciousness, you can rest assured that you are not simply shutting down. You are beginning a journey through different states of consciousness, each with its own signature patterns of brain activity, each supporting specific and essential functions. You are allowing systems to activate that cannot function while you're awake, that need the specific conditions of sleep to perform their vital work. The secret systems are waiting, ready to begin their nightly tasks as soon as you give them permission by closing your eyes and surrendering to sleep. They've been doing this every night of your life, and they'll continue doing it every night for as long as you live. All you have to do is sleep, and they will take care of the rest, keeping you alive, keeping you healthy, maintaining the miracle that is you. Sleep well. Your body knows what to do. If you found this exploration of sleep science fascinating and calming, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Deep Science Sleep for more sleepy science stories. Your support helps us create more content that both educates and helps you drift off into peaceful rest. Sweet dreams, and thank you for listening.